reproduction, and today we will discuss the topic. Today we will discuss the topic sexual reproduction in plants. Okay, so you all of know we have studied that reproduction can be happen in two ways: asexual and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, we have discussed five methods in animals: bionification, fragmentation, spore formation, etc. And asexual reproduction in plants, in which we have discussed vegetative propagation, uh, artificial and artificial and natural vegetative propagation. Okay, so now we will discuss the sexual reproduction in plants, that how sexual reproduction happen in plants. Okay, so you can see on the screen, sexual reproduction involves the production of gametes. First of all, you have to know about what are gametes. Gametes means sex cells. Okay, gametes means sex cells, and they both are different in male and female. So involves the production of gametes. Gametes means sex cells. They are sperms and egg cells. Sperms are present in male and egg cells are present in female. And you all of know that in sexual reproduction, it is the fusion of male and female gametes. Okay, so male gametes are called sperms and female gametes are called egg cells. And their fusion, that is called fertilization. Gametes are produced in special structure in plant body. The major plant groups are mosses, ferns, and seed plants. Underline in your book. These are important. If this question is asked in board exam, okay, in which plant sexual reproduction is happen, so you have to write mosses, ferns, and seed plants because they are responsible for sexual reproduction. So the seed plant include gymnosperm and angiosperm. So seed plants. In this example, they given us a seed plant. Seed plants means the plants which have seeds inside. Further, we can divide seed plants into two main groups, and these groups are gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms which have no flowers, and angiosperms which have flowers on their body. So plants groups use different methods for bringing two sperm and egg cells together. So keep in your mind that when there is a sexual reproduction in plants, so plant groups use different methods for bring the sperm and egg cells together. Okay, so in mosses and ferns, sperms are motile and can swim to egg cells. Motile means float. They can move. So in mosses and ferns, because they grow near to water, so their sperms are motile, means they can move in water and can swim to egg cell. And when they began to and they swim and can reach the egg cells easily. Okay, therefore these plants require water in the form of dew or rain. Definitely the sperms have to move towards egg cells. So for these plants, mosses and ferns, they require water, and they require water in the form of dew and in the form of rain for its sexual reproduction. On the other hand, gymnosperms. I have told you seedless plants divided into two groups, angiosperms and gymnosperms. Gymnosperms which have no seeds and flowers on their body. Okay, and angiosperms have special methods for carrying their sperms to egg cells. So they do not need water for reproduction. So keep in your mind the difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms. Angiosperms are flowering plants. So when they want to do the reproduction, their sperms are motile and um, they move from the egg cell. And secondly, if they are angiosperms are non-flowering plants, so they do not move, so they do not need water. For reproduction in gymnosperms, they need water, but in angiosperms, they do not need water for reproduction. So this is the difference. If this short question comes in the board exam, okay, what is the difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms in reproduction? So your answer should be, there are 2 points are very important. In angiosperms, first they are flowering plants. Secondly, they are flowering plants. Secondly, their sperms are motile, so they can move towards egg cells. And third one, they need water in the form of dew and rain. And on the other side, angiosperms are non-flowering plants. Their sperms are not motile, so they do not need water for reproduction. This is the difference between angiosperms and gymnosperms in reproduction. Now we will discuss the life cycle of plant, that how plants start their life cycle. Okay, so in the life cycle of plants, two different generations alternate with each other. This paragraph is very important because you can see at the end of the paragraph alternation of generation is written. Okay, you have to mark this whole paragraph is the short answer of alternation of generation, and this is very important short question which often comes in board exam. Okay, so you have to understand carefully. In the life cycle of plants, two different generations alternate with each other. Alternate means to substitute, means at one time one generation work and at the other time other generation work. So in the life cycle of plants, two different generations alternate with each other. One generation is diploid and produce spores. Diploid, you also discuss in class 9, diploid and haploid generation in mitosis and meiosis, is diploid and produces spore. It means if they produce more spores for reproduction. It is called sporophyte generation. And the other generation is haploid and produce gametes. Definitely haploid, they reduce the spores and they produce gametes. And I have told you gametes means sex cells, and in male they are called sperms and in female they are called egg cell. So it is called gametophyte generation. The phenomena in which two different generations alternate with each other during life cycle is known as alternation of generation. In simple words, we can say that in the life cycle of a plant, two generations work at the same time. First, when male gametes produce spores, that is called sporophyte generation. And the second step is that when these sporophytes are fused with egg cells, so that is called gametophyte generation. So the phenomena in which two different generations alternate with each other during life cycle is known as alternation of generation. So its answer will start from in the life cycle of plants till alternation of generation. Okay, now we will discuss in a detail how they work. In most plants, sporophyte generation is dominant. Always sporophyte generation is dominant. It means that it is big in size and is independent. Sporophyte produces haploid spores by meiosis. You also discussed mitosis and meiosis in class 9. Mitosis means when the reproduction of chromosomes are increased, and meiosis was that in which the reproduction of chromosomes are decreased to maintain the number of chromosomes in next generation. So like that in most plants, sporophyte generation is dominant. Why it is dominant? Because it is big in size and is independent. So sporophyte produces haploid spores by meiosis. Definitely, diploid processes happen in mitosis, and haploid spore formation is happened in meiosis, in which the spore formation is decreased. The spores develop into gametophyte. When once the spores are produced, so then these spores produce gametophyte generation. Gametophyte means they produce gametes. They produce sex cells. It is small in size and depends upon sporophyte. So it produces gametes by mitosis. The male and female gametes fuse and form diploid zygote. They keep in your mind when male and female sex cells fuse with each other, so because of that, in the production, the zygote is produced. Zygote undergoes repeated mitosis and develops into a new diploid sporophyte. You can also see the screen. This diagram is given in your book. Okay, you can see how this alternation of generation is happen in the animals, in the plants. First spores are produced, one and mitosis is happening. Okay, after that gametophyte is produced, spores produce gametes. So due to mitosis gametes are produced, and due to mitosis gametes are produced, means male and female gametes are produced. When they both are, you can see the arrows, when they both are fuses, because of that zygote is produced, and that is a 2n generation, second generation. and after that when again mitosis is happened, so again sporophyte is produced, and this life cycle repeated again and again. So that's why this is called alternation of generation in plants. Okay, now you can see the next topic, that is a sexual reproduction in flowering plants. As I told you, we have discussed that flowers can be divided into two groups, angiosperms and gymnosperms. Okay, so gymnosperms are flowering plants and angiosperms are non-flowering plants. Sorry, angiosperms are flowering plants and gymnosperms are non-flowering plants. So when we talk about angiosperms, okay, so this topic is about sexual reproduction in flowering plant. It means in this topic we will discuss about the angiosperms. We know that in angiosperms, parent plant is diploid sporophyte generation. Diploid sporophyte. Diploid means it produces more spores in its parent body. So flower is the reproductive structure in this generation. The flower components are arranged in the form of whorls. The outer two whorls in a flower are the non-reproductive whorls, while the inner two whorls are the reproductive whorls. Okay, so in simple words, you can say that a flower consists of four parts. The outer two layers are non-reproductive parts, and the inner two layers are reproductive parts. And you all of know, and you also study in your junior classes, that a flower is the reproductive part of a plant. So now we will discuss the structure of a flower, how many parts it consists of, and what is the role of these parts in the life cycle of a plant. Okay, bete, this is given on page number 79. Okay, you can see in your books. So a flowering plant can be divided into four parts, and these four parts are calyx, androecium, gynoecium, calyx, corolla. So bete, you can see on the screen, a flowering plant can be divided into four parts. First is called calyx, second is called corolla, third is called androecium, and the fourth part is called gynoecium. Now we will discuss what is a calyx. Okay, so calyx is the outermost wall. You can also see in the diagram. Okay, you can also see the calyx is shown here. It is the outermost layer of the part of a plant. Okay, outer part of the plant, and it is usually green in color. It is usually in green color. In its individual units are called sepals. So keep in your mind and underline in your book. Its calyx is the outermost wall. It is usually green in color. Its individual units are called sepals. Sepals protect the inner walls at bud stage. You can see in the diagram, sepals are given. This is the outermost layer of a flower. Okay, you can also see the diagram. It is the outermost layer of a flower, and its units are called sepals, and its important function to protect the flower. Okay, now we will see the other part. Sepals protect the inner walls at bud stage. Definitely when a new plant began to grow, first the bud is appear. So it protect the bud stage of a plant. Second stage is called, second step of flower is called corolla. Corolla is the next inner wall and is often colored brightly. You can also see in the diagram, it is colored in brightly, and its individual units are called petals. So you can see in the diagram, and the individual units are called petals, and they are in a bright colors. Okay, so why they are bright colors? Because they serve to attract bees, birds, etc., which are the agents for pollination. We all of know plants do reproduction in different ways. Sometimes they produce by asexual reproduction. Sometimes they are produced by sexual reproduction, and sometimes they use pollination. Pollination also have two types: self pollination and cross pollination. Self pollination is that in which the spores of a male parcel falls on the same stigma of a flower and goes to the ovary and fuses with ovules. They produce a zygote. And cross pollination when they move from one place to another. And there are different ways they can move from other places by wind. They can go by water, by birds, by insects, and by animals. So the important function of us, so that's why the corolla is in a bright color. Why? Because the birds, bees are attracted towards them. Some flowers produce nectar, which is a sugary solution. So they sit on the top of the flower to get the nectar, to get the nectar, and at that time the spores are attached to their body. When they move from one flower to another, they fall on the stigma of another flower. So that's why the pollination is started and the reproduction is happened. So this is a step which is taken by the plants. Now you see the box which is given in your book. The flower is actually a condensed shoot with the nodes present very close to each other. The different parts of the flower are attached to the nodes. All the structure present at one node are collectively called the whole. It's a definition of wool. Okay, what is the wool? Actually, all flowers are condensed, are in a thick form. They all are attached with the shoot. I have told you the early step is called shoot, and they produce the nodes. So the different parts of the flower which attach with one node, that is called a wool. So in the structure of a flower, first we had discussed the calyx. Second stage is called corolla. Okay, and the units of calyx is called sepals, and the units of corolla are called petals. Now we will discuss the third whole, that is called androecium. Androecium is the male reproductive part of a flower. In simple words, in junior classes, you have studied that the male parts of a flower are called stamen and the female parts of a flower are called carpel. So, stamen, and the other name of stamen is androecium. So, you have to write in your book, androecium is the other name of stamen. So, the third whole, androecium, is the male reproductive part of a flower. Okay, male reproductive part of a flower. Its units are called stamens. So each stamen has a thread-like filaments at the free end of each which anther attached. So I will explain you this line. Okay, what is the anther? Anther is the top part of the male part in which spores are produced. And these anthers, when go towards the lower part of the body, they go a line through the thread-like structure. And these thread-like structures are called filament. And each filament attached with a stamen. Okay, and you can also see in the diagram I'm showing you. You can see this is the top part of anther, yellow part is anther, and this anther attached with a thread like structure. In the lower part you can see this is called filament. Okay, and collectively this part is called stamen, the male part of a flower, and the other name of stamen is called androecium. Okay. Now you see, uh, anther has pollen sacs in which haploid microspores, pollen grains uh, are produced through meiosis. So each microscope germinates into each microspore germinates mitosis and produces nuclei, a tube nucleus and a generative nucleus. So this is the process of androecium, that how male part is work in the body of a plant. So every anther has a pollen sacs in each which produce microspores. Microspores means very tiny spores which produce in many numbers and we cannot see by our open eyes, means pollen grains. Some pollen grains are seen but some are very tiny which we can see with the help of microscope. So microspores are produced through meiosis. So in the anther, pollen grains are produced by the process of meiosis. So each microspore germinate into the male gametophyte generation. So during it, the nucleus of microscope undergoes mitosis and produces two nuclei. So in the body of a plant, it produces two nuclei, a tube nucleus and a generative nucleus. a tube nucleus and a generative nucleus. So what is the difference between two? The generative nucleus again undergo mitosis and produce two sperms. Tube nucleus means the filament. This is called a tube from which the spores reach to the ovary of a plant, and a generative nucleus which produce do go again undergo mitosis and produce two sperms at the same time. A germinated microspore has a tube nucleus and two sperms. All these structures are the male gametophyte generation of a plant. Now question is that why it produces two sperms? So they both have a specific function. One sperm will be fuses, you will study in your next page. One sperm will be fused with egg cell and convert them into a zygote, and the unfertilized sperm, it will again go under meiosis and produce an other microscope in the body of a plant. Okay, so the fourth wood, that is called gynoecium, is the female reproductive part of a flower. And you also know the female parts of a flower is called carpel. Okay, so its genus are called carpel or pistils. So each carpel is made up of the basal ovary, middle style, and upper stigma. These are the part of carpel. It consists of basal ovary, middle style, and upper stigma. Inside ovary, there are one to many ovules. You can also see in the diagram. Okay, there is a carpel is written in the diagram. Okay, and you can see stigma is the top part of the reproductive part of a plant, female reproductive part. From stigma a tube comes to down, that is called the style, and in the center the black part, that is called the ovary, and in the ovary there is one or more ovules already are inside it. Okay, so inside ovary there are one to many ovules. Inside each ovule one haploid microspore is produced through meiosis. Inside each ovule, one haploid macrospore is produced through meiosis. Keep in your mind and underline it, which I have told you above in above paragraph. Inside each ovule, one female gametophyte generation. So during it, macrospore undergo mitosis and produces an egg cell. So macrospores are those which are in large size. Microspore is that which are very small in size. So when this macrospore is produced, it convert into an egg cell and some associated structures, for example, fusion nucleus. So egg cell and associated structures are the female gametophyte generations of a plant. I hope you understand it, but I will explain you again. This is something confusing, but this is not new for you. We are studying the structure of a flower. Why? Because we have started our topic about a sexual reproduction in plants, and we all of know the flower is the main reproductive part of a flower. So, in structure of a flower, it consists of four whorls. First wool is called calyx. Okay, it is the outermost wool of the flower. Okay, and its units are called sepals, and it protect the bud stage of a plant. Corolla is the second stage of flower. It is the inner wool, and its units are called petals, and they are in bright color to attract the bees and birds for pollination. Third wool is called androecium. It is the male part of a flower. It consists of anther, filament. Okay, it is filament, and and because of this process, tube nucleus and generative nucleus are produced at a time. Two sperms are produced, and the last stage is fourth wool is called gynoecium. It is the female reproductive part of a flower. Its units are called carpels, and it has a ovary, middle style, and stigma, and it has ovules inside it. When they fuse to each other, they produce fertilization, and there is a haploid macrospores. um, and macrospores I have told you, which are in large size. So when they are fuses to each other, they produce an egg cell. So the fusion of nucleus leads to fertilization. Now you will see, you can also see the diagram which you can see on the screen, and you also see the side box. Different flowers have one too many carpels. These may either to be fused or free. Different flowers have one too many carpels, means they have one or many carpels. And under this statement you can see Theophorus, the successor of Aristotle. Successor means who follow the Aristotle. Okay, Theophorus who followed the Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. He laid a solid foundation of botany, including the morphology and functions of the flower. So what did he done? Theophorus, he did a lot of work on the morphology and functions of the flower. Morphology, you all of know, study in class 9, first chapter, the external structure of a flower. So Theophorus discussed in a detail the external structure of a flower and the functions of the flower, and he recognized the male and female sex parts of the flower. Before that, no one knows about the male and female parts of a flower, but after the working of Theophorus, we came to know that all flowers have male and female parts inside them, and describe the pollination and fertilization in flowers. So we can see Theophorus, who was the successor of Aristotle. He was the first person who discussed in detail the male and female parts of a flower, their how the structure of a flower, and the process of pollination and the process of fertilization. Now see under the diagram, when pollen grains mature, they are transferred to stigma. Now this is a process. Above paragraphs we have discussed the parts of the flower, how many parts a flower has and what are their functions. Now this is a process of sexual reproduction in plants, how this is happen. When pollen grains are mature, definitely where pollen grains are produced, these pollen grains are produced, where they are produced, these pollen grains are produced in these pollen grains are produced in anther. Okay, so they are transport stigma. So how they are here, they can transfer by wind, they can transfer by insects, by any way. This is called pollination. On reaching the stigma, the tube nucleus of pollen grain constructed a pollen tube. So what is happened when the spores reach the stigma? The tube nucleus of pollen grain construct a pollen tube. The pollen tube contains a tube nucleus and two sperm. So the tube grows through style. Style is the present in the female part under the stigma. Under the stigma, the tube is called style. You can also see in the diagram. And ovary and enters ovule. Here it bursts and releases the sperm. So what is happened over there? It bursts and release the sperms. So both sperms enter the female gametophyte. One sperm fuses with egg and forms a diploid zygote. The other one and produce the zygote. What is happen inside it and produce the zygote. And the other part of a flower, the other sperm fuses with diploid fusion nucleus and forms a tripod nucleus called endosperm nucleus. Since the process of fertilization involves two fusions, it is called double fertilization. So underline in your book, what is a double fertilization? The answer is given. The process of double fertilization. So marking the other sperm fuses with diploid fusion nucleus and forms a triploid nucleus called endosperm nucleus. Since the process of fertilization involves two fusion, that is called double fertilization. So underline in your book, what is a double fertilization? This is given in your book. You can also see double fertilization. Now, what is the role of zygote? So what is happened with the zygote? Zygote develops into embryo. Definitely the early fusion of male and female sperms. The early fusion of male and female sperms, that is called that produce zygote, and when further then zygote develops, then it convert into embryo and endosperms. Endosperm is produced by, I have told you in the start of the lecture that there are two sperms are produced in the tube nucleus. One is used for to produce a zygote, and the second one is produced to make a endosperm. So endosperm is the part of a flower in which mostly food is stored. Okay, so you can see zygote develops into embryo, and endosperm's nucleus develops into endosperms. So endosperm tissue, food of the growing embryo. I'm repeating it again. This is something confusion inside it. Zygote develops into embryo, okay, and endosperm nucleus develops into endosperm tissue. This is the part of a flower in which food of the growing embryo is stored. This is the part of a flower in which the food of a embryo is stored. So since the process of fertilization involves two fusion, so at the same time two fusions are happen inside the flowers, and that is called a double fertilization. In simple words, I would like to explain you again. When there is a when embryo is formed, so in the ovary already one or more ovules are present. So one ovule fuses with egg cell and convert into embryo, and the left ovule which is left in the ovary, it convert into endosperm. So when an zygote convert into zygote, when zygote began to grow, so at that time it needs food. So that food is taken by the left ovule, which after mitosis convert into endosperm. So endosperm is that part of a flower. Endosperm is that part of a flower in which the food for embryo is stored. Definitely embryo is inside the body of a flower, it is in the ovary, so it have to grow, so it needs nutrients. So these nutrients it gets from endosperm. So at the same time we have discussed that two sperms are produced. One sperm fuses with egg cell, and